If you've heard this one before, stop me. After a time of political chaos, Britain got a new leader for the second time. This time, the leader is Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak took over for Truss, who became Prime Minister on September 6 after being chosen by Conservative Party members to lead them instead of Boris Johnson. Truss' disastrous series of self-inflicted wounds that turned into a political death spiral started with the Conservative Party leader's failed attempt to radically change the government's economic agenda by cutting taxes without explaining how the decision would be paid for. It shook the markets, and Truss never got back on his feet. Liz Truss announced on the 20th of October that she is stepping down as Prime Minister after only a month and a half in the job. During that time, she spent most of her time trying to keep her job. Now, she is going to be the person who has lived in Downing Street for the least amount of time in the last 300 years of British history. Who's Rishi Sunak? Sunak took one of the most common ways to get to the top. Sunak was born into a Hindu Punjabi immigrant family from East Africa in the English port city of Southampton. He went to Winchester College, one of the UK's most prestigious private boarding schools, for his education. He then went to Oxford University to study philosophy, politics, and economics, which is the best degree for anyone who wants to go into British politics. Sunak worked at Goldman Sachs and Stanford University, where he got his MBA as a Fulbright scholar. He then went to work for hedge funds before running for Parliament in 2015. Sunak is a practicing Hindu, and he is best known for taking his parliamentary oath on the Hindu holy book Bhagavad Gita. But Sunak is still very unusual as far as British lawmakers are concerned. Sunak is thought to be the richest member of the House of Commons because he has a net worth of about £730 million, until he quit Johnson's government, which led to its downfall. Sunak was also the country's second youngest Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is what the role of Finance Minister is called in Britain. He is now set to become the youngest Prime Minister in modern British history. What's his political history? Over the past few years, Sunak's national image has changed in different ways. Before Johnson made Sunak the Chancellor of the country in early 2020, he was probably best known as one of the first people to support the Brexit campaign. But he didn't become a household name until the COVID-19 pandemic started. He promised to do whatever it takes to help British businesses get through the unprecedented global crisis. And he ended up being in charge of the largest economic bailout in peacetime. His worldwide fame did not last, though. In April, Sunak got a lot of criticism after it came out that his wife, Akshata Murthy, was the daughter of one of India's richest men and had non-domiciled status. This meant that she didn't have to pay UK taxes on her overseas income, which the BBC estimated at over £2 million a year. When it was found out that Sunak still had a US green card after joining the government, the controversies kept going. People with green cards are supposed to make the US their permanent home. In the same month, Sunak was one of several people in Downing Street, including Johnson, who were fined for breaking the 19th of June 19 lockdown rules when they went to Johnson's birthday party. This was perhaps the most damaging controversy, even though Sunak's history of being a fiscal conservative may have cost him the leadership race against Truss, who ran on a platform of big tax cuts that Sunak warned would be bad for the British economy. It almost certainly won't hurt him this time. What kind of a leader will Sunak be? Gavin Barwell, who was a Conservative minister and Theresa May's chief of staff before she became Prime Minister, says that Sunak will be more practical than Johnson and have a different personality. Compared to Truss, he will be seen as a safe pair of hands for the British economy who can lead the country through the huge economic challenges it faces. Sunak will bring a more serious style to Downing Street, that's for sure. He doesn't have any of Johnson's clownish behavior or Truss' passion for libertarianism. He does, however, have an expensive wardrobe, a taste for Coca-Cola, and, as Helen Lewis of The Atlantic rightly points out, a meticulous and obsessive personality that reminds her of Niles Crane from the TV show Frasier. What happens next is a story that is very British. Sunak has to deal with the same political and economic pressures that both Truss and Boris Johnson had to deal with. He has called for a more practical and less ideological way of running the government, and he already seems to have brought some calm to a party that was in full-blown panic after Truss' short time in office. Sunak will have to deal with the same tough policy problems as his predecessors, like the tensions over what will happen to Northern Ireland after Brexit. If you enjoyed today's video, then feel free to smash the like button and subscribe to our channel.